Yeah, so do you want to do, because this other one is going to lead us into the breaking down breaking points. Do you want to do that right now? Do you want to do this local story first? Do you want to do the breaking down breaking points, and then we'll see what's up with the local story? Because we can also do that in the grab bag.
Let's do breaking down breaking points.
Okay, so this second, let me ask you this, as you just heard us produce here, because we live produce on the show, you guys love it, is we're also going to do our first of 2 breaking down breaking points segments. We need a fucking drop for that, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, shit, yeah.
That's what we need.
Producer, get off your ass and make something
God
like
damn it, Colin. No, okay, so...
Because we definitely do it regularly enough.
Yes. So we're going to have... It's going to be 2 parts of this. We're going to break down breaking points, and then we're going to have like a real discussion about this topic, because I am intrigued, and I'm trying to discuss it.
Yes.
Right?
It's a very interesting one.
So this, let me ask you, this has to do with child labor, right? And I guess the question really at the end of it is like, what's the deal with child labor? What do you think about it? You know, so that's we'll get into that after we do the breaking down breaking points.
Okay, so watch the vid and then start talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll break down breaking points first.
Let's do it. So this comes courtesy of what day's episode? Tuesday's episode, I believe.
I think so.
Last week.
Horrifying revelation from federal authorities. They found more than 100 kids that were working in slaughterhouses, cleaning slaughterhouses. This was in plants across the
Pause
country.
for a second. This is a 6-minute segment.
Yes.
Okay, so there's like so much more that goes into this and it deserves, especially with as outraged as they end up being, you know, or she pretends to be, it deserves way more than 6 minutes, because there's like a lot of questions about what the fuck happened here.
So many questions. It's like I told you after we watched the first, I was like, I just have so many more questions.
Yes.
If you're this worked up.
On the screen, this is from The Guardian. The headline here is over 100 children illegally employed by U.S. slaughterhouse cleaning firm. Labor Department investigation finds Packers Sanitation Services employed children between the ages of 13 and 17 in 8 different states. Some of the details here are truly horrifying. So they found kids were working with hazardous chemicals. They were cleaning meat processing equipment, including back saws, brisket saws, and head splitters. At least 3 minors suffered injuries.
Some people call those tools of the trade, by
and
the
that's
way.
that's what a thing that I think is funny is I get that they have like wild names. Also, it's a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
Like that's what the things are going to be called, because that's what you're doing there. So that's just a funny... I agree.
Mm-hmm. And hazardous chemicals, by the way, are any cleaning products that are used. Anything
that you get, like that maybe you mix yourself or some shit like that, which in a lot of industrial places you're going to do. You're going to make, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. And we have the MSDS index, which is something that like we have at our job.
Yeah.
By any chemical and stuff that we have.
Right.
And that's it. It's it's required by law to be there from the feds. It shows you all the safety procedures that you're supposed to use with those chemicals, any kind of, proper PPE that you have to wear. You have how to use it properly, how to clean it, other safety kind of side effects, and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's all the things.
Right.
But yes, most cleaning chemicals, including the ones you have in your home, are hazardous materials in some capacity.
Put the yuck sticker on it.
Put the yuck sticker on it, yes.
While working for this company, and this is not some little side organization. This is one of the country's largest food safety sanitation service providers. They were working at plants owned by Cargill, Tyson Food, JBS, which is a gigantic meat processing company. They were the largest company
after
that
hours,
they had the most number of kids that were.
If they're doing it, if they're cleaning the equipment, it's probably after hours.
Yes.
So there's
in large 24-hour operation places like this, you'll generally have 2 shifts that work, I think, 12 hours at a time, more or less, that get you up to 24. But realistically, there's about a 2-hour window there where there's nobody actively working on the floor. And in that case, all the cleaning crew is there to clean everything up in between then, and then the next shift starts.
To clean all the shit.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard deal. You know what I mean? I've worked in a couple manufacturing plants that are like that.
working in their plants, but, Gibbon Packing, Greater Omaha Packing, Maple Leaf Farms, Turkey Valley Farms, George's Inc., Tyson Food, among others. So a horrifying discovery here. And part of what they say, Emily, is, some of these kids, they're working like the middle of the night.
I don't know. I'm not trying to nitpick, and I'm also not trying to defend like giant corporations or anything like that. But she's listing off all these companies that, and I feel like if they knew that there's 13-year-olds that are working in their facilities, they'd probably be like, hey, let's not do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this is not cool. I didn't know you were doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I agreed to. So I don't know. The disconnection between there's a contractor that you're saying is responsible for this. They're hiring these people, but it's these meat packing facilities' fault that they're hiring these, or that they have this contractor who's the largest cleaning contractor of meat packing facilities in the country.
Yeah, and so that's part of the thing I don't like about her argument at this point is she's listing off all these meat packing plants, if you will, and as if they are the problem here,
right? Because
they're at their various facilities, but this is a single contractor that is hired by all those people,
right?
Probably due to some kind of unionization, kind of contracting type, big contracting unions and stuff like that. So I'm very sure there's some, you should probably be talking to your labor unions that run these industries.
It's a Bethel towing on a snowy road type of situation.
I guarantee you it's something like that. But even then, it's not necessarily those companies' fault. It's the contractor that's doing this.
Right.
And you don't dive into how this contractor works, especially if it's a union gig. You're not diving into how they run their company and all this stuff. No, you hire them, generally speaking, because they're the cheapest out of 3 different bids that you get among the rest of the union shops, and then they tend to always underbid everyone else in the industry, and then they soak up all the work, blah 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 blah. These meatpacking plants aren't doing anything other than going with more or less the standard industry cleaning people that everyone else uses, and that's the way you do it.
And this job sounds like it sucks, so there's probably quite a bit of turnover. I imagine people don't work cleaning meatpacking equipment for that long.
Yeah, I'm very sure.
They're probably not like, this is sick. Like, I'm gonna
doing,
keep doing
baby.
this. Yeah.
Meat packing plants are closed, and so they're falling asleep in school. Some of them suffered chemical burns. Just unbelievable that this is going on in America right now.
Yeah, and here's a quote actually from the report from the Department of Labor. They say, quote, "Our investigation found Packers Sanitation Services systems flagged some young workers as minors, but the company..."
So this is an issue. When I was listening to this, I had an issue with this because and maybe think about the public school system. You know what I'm saying? These kids, they're falling asleep in school. Why the fuck are they having to go to school and work at the same time, right? There's obviously particular cases here that don't fit into these cookie cutter standards that are laid out by the federal government that everybody needs to be doing this thing. If there are kids that need to be working or that are working, there should be and needs to be a better way for them to be able to get their education and not have to show up during these exact hours, to fit this standard that's set out that, as we've talked about a million times, is bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
So this is to me, a poor reflection on the structure that the federal government and state governments have set out for kids to have to get their education in.
Yeah. It's very, hard and set time during the day, during these hours. Because it's basically a daycare center type of situation.
And it's a misaligning of values of that, showing children that there isn't value in them working and there's more value in this traditional education. And I'm not, obviously but there's also, if you're going to do a particular job, there's value in getting on the job training as well. And I'm not saying that necessarily cleaning meatpacking equipment is that, but
and so many questions already about there's no details about you say some of these kids are falling asleep in school. I go, well, okay. Have you talked to the kids? Why are they working there? Are they being forced into this by their parents or situation, or what is we need the context behind this. You can't just say some of these kids are falling behind in school. Some of them are getting chemical burns. Or were they using the things improperly? I mean, were they fucking around? Or was there an accident? Or You know, what's the context here? You're making it sound like these kids are slave labor brought in off the streets to work in the dead of night at gunpoint in these horrific conditions at these meatpacking plants across the world.
Do they have the jobs voluntarily, or were they coerced into this job to work with dangerous chemicals
What
under
is
unsafe
happening
conditions?
Here? They can't drive if they're 13.
Because it
Somebody's
sounds
driving them to work.
It sounds like, and I'm not even going to continue to qualify. It sounds like the way they're making it sound is like these children are being forced to work at this job. And to my understanding, even after I did the research, it sounds like all of these people applied to work for this job, and the companies chose to ignore their ages. Right? That's another discussion, but it doesn't sound like these kids are being forced to work at this facility. That they're working this job by choice.
Yeah. Like Kevin says, at 13, I was working nights with my father, then went and delivered my own newspapers, then went to school. After school, went and split firewood. Kids nowadays are soft. Yeah.
We delivered newspapers to newspaper boys, and I was a newspaper delivery boy. Went to school full time, and then worked splitting firewood for my dad's firewood business for hours before bed. What happened to being proud of a hard work ethic, even if they are young?
It's evil. You were being taken advantage of, Kevin.
Yeah.
You were basically a slave, and you just didn't even know it. And it's horrific that this is allowed to happen in this country. All right, carry on.
Yes.
He ignored the flags. When the wage and hour division arrived with warrants, the adults who had recruited, hired, and supervised these children tried to derail our efforts to investigate their employment practices. So the system, the company system, worked because obviously they're asking for people's ages when they're being hired. Obviously,
when they apply for the job. They apply for the job.
Yeah. Right? Are you old? But I thought correct me if I'm wrong, but when you hire people, you're not allowed to ask how old they are. Technically.
No, but you have to get copies of their ID and stuff like that.
Yeah,
when they fill out their
they have to be of legal age, but at that point you can't
shit, or whatever the form is when you first get your job. Your W-2 is for your taxes, but whatever tax forms you fill out.
W-4. That's what it is.
There you
go. That fails, and they ignore the flags.
Yes.
And that's crazy. I mean, it's so obviously our system, to the extent that it worked, they were fined $1.5 million in civil penalties. That's what this announcement is based on. It's a big fine. Not huge for a company of that size at all.
No, and they're absolutely positive because they're timing, they're ignoring these things, and that's fine. But again, as we talked about a million times, these are arbitrary standards set by the federal government that are dictating when certain people, individuals, can decide when they are and are not going to work. Right? There is again a massive difference between someone who needs to make extra money and is working with their parents to get a job so they can help out with these things. Because in these articles that I have, like the Time article, I'm excited to read part of it because I agreed with this one for a second, and it takes the weirdest fucking leftist twist at the end. It's wild. But there's a difference between people who need to make money doing that and people being forced to work in a fucking coal mine under horrifically unsafe conditions, like it was when we had these child labor laws put in place. You know, these are not the same thing. And
I'm down to the mines.
I'm not saying that we should just hire all the 13-year-olds and let them get after it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this is not the same thing as the reason that we have the child labor laws now.
No.
And that is precisely how they're making it sound.
Exactly. That's why they used the thumbnail of the coal mining kid.
Oh, the coal mining kid. What is that?
It's amazing because the Department of Labor describes this as a, quote, systemic violation. It's across 8 different states, lots of different kids involved, but you can see when you really zero down that their investigation found that they were flagged as children.
Yeah, and the company just didn't care. I mean, there's a couple things that could be relevant in this situation. I mean, one thing is the rise of contractors to do work within companies, and what
unionized contractors.
Happens is, the big company, let's say Tyson Food, they put a lot of pressure on these subcontractors in order to come in with the lowest price.
Right.
And then it allows
driven by unions.
Allows them to kind of keep their hands clean from having to do the horrifying child labor recruitment and the lowest possible
Okay,
the
all
lowest
right,
bidder.
hold on. She's the horrible child labor recruitment. So they found just over 100 children across 8 states, and she's now talking about nationwide meat producers, right? That they're if they start hiring, it's gonna be rampant.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
This thing that's happening where they have a small handful of children who are 13, who are under an age where I would be like, fuck it, work anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because even in Washington, at 15 and a half, you get a worker's permit. You can start working legally, right? So even if that's our bare minimum, you're talking about 40 kids over 8 states that are under that threshold in this investigation that you did. All of a sudden, Tyson Foods is going to open up and hire just fucking 12-year-olds to work at all of their meat packing plants.
gonna happen.
Because the tiny hands clean the equipment so much better. That's ridiculous. This is a silly-ass argument that's totally fatalistic. That's not particular, but extremely negative toward corporations. That's, as soon as a big company takes over, they're just going to hire only fucking children. It's all
right.
child labor all day, and the only thing that's going to deter that is more regulation by whoever is fucking doing the Department of Labor.
Even though we have the regulation and these people just chose to continue on anyways for whatever reason,
Right.
again, whether or not, like, we don't know the break. They use the 13-year-old as the lowest number. They said between 13 and 17 because
Yes.
anybody under 18 would be flagged in this system, obviously.
I have an article that has a breakdown of
Perfect.
the ages of the kids.
Perfect. But it's just her disdain towards corporate America or corporations in general is leading her argument on this one. All corporations are evil, so obviously if this is happening, it's going to continue to happen unless something happens, unless we do something.
Right.
Because this is terrible and it's a systemic failure. Sounds like it's not really systemic. It's they got flagged in the system because the computer says you're under 18, red flag. Whatever the circumstances were about this company choosing to hire these underage kids, maybe there's legitimate reasons, like these kids wanted fucking jobs.
Right.
But that never factors into the conversation, to her argument at all.
And that's
never once.
a huge part of this issue for me. Like I said, coercion or like over being convinced. If they
Yeah.
wanted this job, then we're talking about the federal government telling you whether you can or cannot have a job. I don't. I'm not going to do
not good.
that. I'm not okay with that being the
Nope.
reason. It's because we've decided that children can't do this and they can't whatever.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that. That's a silly game, and I don't think that we should be playing that.
Yeah.
Like that's
if
these.
the kid wants to work and the parents are okay with it, then the
Yes.
federal government should not be allowed to stop you from doing that.
And they're safe. Obviously, there's safety matters. At the end of the day, the child needs to be taken care of. Like that goes without saying. I feel like, you know what I'm saying.
Like any other employee of that company, they're not more at danger because they're younger.
Right.
Other than the fact that, I mean, you hire anybody under 25 for the most part these days, they're
gonna
going to act
require-
like they're 12 anyways.
And they're going to require more supervision, most likely.
Yes.
Like and if you're not doing that, then that's on you because that's.
Yeah. That's the way that's going to go.
Yes.
If that's the group of employees you're going to be hiring, there are going to be certain downfalls that come with that, and you as a company need to be prepared to manage that portion of the business. Probably not a good call, but also you can hire those people cheaper. It probably works out in the wash once you get down to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they're making that call because of the way, whether or not they're going to be in the red or in the black. They know what they're doing. We carry on.
Or ends up getting the gig, and they engage in all of these flagrant labor law violations, and it sort of protects the bigger company from dealing with any of the charges. Who knows if Tyson Foods or these other giant corporations had any inkling of what was going on with the sanitation company? It's certainly possible that they did. So that's one piece of.
And it's certainly possible that they didn't.
Right.
Can I just say that? It's certainly possible that they did. I'm going to go move on now. He's like, yeah, but it's also certainly possible that they didn't, you fucking idiot.
She hates companies.
She
so
hates them
bad.
so much. And again, like I just keep hitting this unionization point because she's so hardcore about organized labor. Every single one of these companies, including the one in question here, I guarantee you they're unionized because that's the only way to participate in those corporate manufacturing companies
Right.
in America. That's all those people have some kind of union. So you're talking about your own people here in corporate America. It's organized labor that is essentially pushing all this stuff and allowing this stuff to happen. That's probably why these kids are allowed to come and work, because their family members are in the union that work there. I'm very sure that's, and then they bring people in like in an apprenticeship type of,
right.
Something like that. That would make sense to me. Why would that not? That seems like a good deal if that's what you want to do. Only look out. Unions only look out for the unions, not the worker. Amen, Kevin. That is my base problem with unions. They do not give a shit about the worker. It's just like how Joe Biden cares about America. He doesn't give a shit about America. He pretends to care about America so that he can continue looking out for himself,
right,
and his people.
This. The other piece that I think is relevant here is we're in a situation where, people are not doing well economically because wages are still low and inflation is still high, but the unemployment rate is very low. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of companies are struggling, at least at the wages they want to pay, to get
wages
workers.
Have been going up. That's not true. Compared to inflation, they've been completely wiped out because inflation is so fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Wages have been going up. So
but not at the same rate.
You can look up any article right now. That's the truth. She just lied.
Yes.
Wages are still low. Compared to inflation, yes. It's completely wiped out all of the increases that have happened since out of the last fucking 4 years.
Yeah, like twofold.
Yes. Shut the fuck up.
In. So guess what? You have unscrupulous, I would say evil actors like this company who, in order to get around that, what do they do?
Actors.
They push for, it may be undocumented immigrants. It may be children, who are under the legal age where they could work in an environment like this. And in fact, there is a trend across the country right now in a number of different legislatures.
So they might push to have more illegal immigrants come here.
They might. They
Dear
might
God,
not.
Is that not what you? Is this not what you want? Is this not the thing that you want? Is this not what you're consistently advocating for? But it's terrible when they want it so they can work here, right?
Hey, they just need a pathway to citizenship.
I'm not defending it either way, but when this is what you want, why is it terrible when somebody else wants the same thing for a different reason?
Because they're evil. As she says, they're evil.
It's because to you it's just politics. To them it's just money, and to you it's just politics. Yeah. And for some reason you think that's better than the other one. Both of those are evil things. To seek just money from this and to seek just politics from this. Not about the people, like you claim that it is.
The workers.
But it's obviously not. It's obviously just about politics, because when these companies want it for a different reason, it's not okay. It's not actually about people. You don't actually want these people to come here and have a better life, more opportunities, or any of that type of shit.
Nah.
You want just that, for that to be able to be used as a political piece when the next election comes around, because 2024 is in full swing, Colin.
No.
Yes. It's in full swing.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
She's terrible.
Regarding child labor law. Iowa is probably the most egregious example. Their Republican legislators introduced a bill in January that would expand the types of work 14 and 15-year-olds could do as part of, quote, approved training programs. They would extend...
Quote...
Jasinski's very uncomfortable about this.
She says, quote, approved training programs.
Yes.
And allowable work hours and, wait for it, exempt employers from liability if these kids are sickened, injured, or killed on the job.
That's
that
nice.
is wild. I did not personally find that. I was trying to find that. I did not personally find that verbiage. She quoted it, so I imagine they don't. I was gonna say she don't lie about stuff, but just like 2 minutes ago she just lied and I caught her. So I'm not gonna say she doesn't lie, but I trust that it's sourced from somewhere if she quoted it, is what I will say.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah,
right? I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how that was come about or why anyone think that's a good idea. But obviously, if you have people working for you, you need to take care of them. You don't get to violate people's rights to life and safety because I don't know, for money, for whatever reason. Like you need to take care of people who are working for you.
Yeah, I'd be really interested. And it's really funny. I always used to make fun of Crowder for this back when he used to have a show, because he doesn't have a show and it's March and nobody cares about Crowder anymore.
What the hell, Crowder?
But they don't post their sources, which kind of bothers me. For a nice, transparent, they talk a lot about how they try to be as transparent as possible with their partners and whatever it is, all their stakeholders, if you will.
Crowder's are on his website.
Yes.
So, and I have...
But Breaking Points does... Their website is their Patreon.
Yeah. They don't have their source as to what they're...
Yeah. They don't post sources. They should
Right.
have sources posted in this video description.
And you're saying Crowder does, and that's so
Yeah.
it's a positive. Yes, he does. That's because
Yeah, all they've got is
I've used his stuff before.
links to
I've
it.
gone to his website before to
Yeah.
a particular episode, and you can find.
When Crowder sources things,
Yeah,
you can find them. When they source things, you have to trust them.
she says quote
Yeah, she says quote. She could be quoting an article.
or a tweet.
Or yeah, exactly. So we don't know, and I don't trust her to not be. I don't trust her to not be lying to me, considering she just lied to
She
me.
just lied.
Yeah, so not only are we going to make more kids available to put into the workforce and lengthen the extended
How
amount of
dare you.
hours that they can work,
Yeah.
was
if
a
they
good
get
drop.
hurt or sickened or killed on the job, we're going to make sure that the companies bear no cost of that.
Amazing.
Unbelievable, right?
And to your point, actually, this is another thing to think about. Like this is going to happen more and more and more.
I also would wonder too, like, because that seems like a blatant violation of so many different kind of like labor laws that already exist.
Right.
Like, I wonder if that's just a like they don't get put like an extra charge if a kid gets hurt or dies on the job. They just have the standard kind of liability for their like a standard employee.
Yeah.
You know, it's not extra because it's a underage worker. I wonder if that's the case.
That would make more sense.
You know, because I just I can't
How
see
do you
that
remove the
being,
liability?
I can't see that being passed in any kind of legislation whatsoever. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
Not in 2023.
because I'm actually sort of tempted by the libertarian argument that some child labor laws are too far, that they prevent young kids from being able to like start saving for college, which is
tempted,
insanely
Jasinski.
expensive, et cetera, et cetera. But that aside, these
Well,
questions
my commie
are
hat
going
on.
to see them pop up more.
Or, you know, so they can save for college, or it's fucking useless anyway.
Yeah.
And that's like, we talked about this, that this her focus on the college thing is because to them that's still how you get things done.
You still
Like,
gotta
you
do
still
it.
have to go to college, you still need a degree, because
Yeah.
you can't be a journalist if you don't have a degree. You can't actually be a part of this class if you haven't gone and got a degree somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't
Can't do
fucking
that.
you can't work a regular job and then show up every other week and do a 7-hour show and be a journalist.
No.
You can't do it.
Can't
It's
do it.
impossible. You can't possibly provide better social commentary than people who wasted fucking time at a college for 8 years of their life getting wasted, useless pieces of paper. You couldn't possibly do a better job if you work an actual regular blue collar job in
Yep.
your everyday life.
Yeah, when you
right?
when you look at the we'll say the white collar journalists that come out of J school, that's when you get the you know, a source according to a source close to according to an unnamed source here. That's what you get out of journalism school. When you look at the gonzo journalism, the everyday blue collar journalists, if you will, they're out there on the street talking to people. They're diving in, looking at legislation. They're posting their sources. They're not afraid to. They're not going to talk to somebody just on the condition of anonymity. That they know for a fact that that doesn't give them any kind of credibility. Whereas these white collar journalists rely on the credibility of the institution that they work for
Yes.
to just be able to just tell you whatever the fuck they want, and then they call that journalism. That's not good.
Come on,
and that's
Jasinsk.
nobody. Yeah, Jasinsk knows this. She's like, well, I can play around with this, blah blah blah.
Right.
But let me put my communist hat on real quick, and then just say all corporations are bad, blah 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 blah. It never enters into the mind of these people again that like, maybe this kid just wants to get a job so he can ball out a little bit in front of his friends and buy his fucking video games and his
Right.
skateboards and do all the fun shit that he wants to do and be a fucking badass among his peer group. No? Okay. That's why I wanted a job when I was a kid, so I can have so I can have my own money.
Or
so I
just to
could
get
do what I
fucked up.
wanted.
You know, kids like to get fucked up too.
Yeah. You know the dealers on the street, man, they don't have like discount codes, bro.
No.
You know, you need cash money.
More and more because we have a completely broken immigration system, because we have so many people sitting on the sidelines of our workforce and totally overeducated people who they were sold a false bill of goods about their college educations. They're now looking for good jobs because they paid
Overeducated and underqualified because their pieces of paper mean fucking nothing.
Amen.
Because their degrees mean absolutely nothing.
Yep.
They're overeducated, underqualified for, I don't know, working in a fucking meat packing plant because they don't have any experience doing anything with their hands other than
Yeah.
typing like a fucking little bitch.
A couple years working at the cleaning facility company or whatever, you've already got a leg up over like by the time you get to the same age as that college grad, you're making fucking money, you're established, you've got a ton of work experience already, and the person getting out of college has nothing except for a shitload of debt. Yeah, it seems like a really, really bad idea to me, right?
But at least you're
thousands
overeducated.
Yes.
But at least you're overeducated.
Overeducated.
You're super smart when
Yes.
you go places.
Got to go to college,
It's
baby.
great that you know. I don't know. I don't even want to make up things that you learned in college. Dumb shit.
Dumb stuff.
Yeah. I'm
dollars
sorry
to
to
go
my
to
children who
college.
are
They
listening.
want to be working in a job that
Don't go
matches
to
their
college.
degree so that the money wasn't a waste. And they're looking for jobs, and in their absence, wasn't a waste. And they're looking.
I got to replay that part because I love this point.
They're now looking for good jobs because they paid tens of thousands of dollars to go to college. They want to be working in a job that matches their degree so that the money wasn't a waste.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the path that you went down in college did not pay off and it was a bad investment for you. There's no good jobs out there for me to use my worthless piece of paper on. So,
Right.
this is, where are the people looking out for me?
You're not qualified, so companies should pay you more
That's
because
right.
you went to college. Even though your degree means nothing into what the job that you
Yeah.
want, you should be paid more because you've spent money unwisely.
Yeah, bro. This Jasinski lost a lot of points in my book
nice.
today. It was,
maybe
it
I
was
should
real
be able,
rough.
Maybe I should be able to appeal with my credit card debt when I apply for a job. That
Yeah,
also, I'm racked with debt. So I mean, if you guys want to also give me more money because I have more debt, other than what you've advertised here,
Yeah.
that would be sick. Like I would really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I deserve that, actually.
Yeah,
Really.
I deserve it, so that it wasn't a waste that I spent all this money on stuff that I don't have anymore.
Yeah, bro. I just don't. I wasted all this money. I need to recoup that. Jasinski, what are
On
you doing?
books, okay, if I open up a credit card and I buy $10,000 worth of books, right, and I read all the books, can I then go? Should I then be able to get more money because I have read $10,000 worth of books? I have $10,000 worth of knowledge
Good
now.
educational
Yeah.
books. You know
Do
what
I
I mean?
deserve more money at our
All
job
Thomas
now?
Sowell.
Come on. That's a nonsense argument.
Yes, it is.
And you're making the point of us. That's like, well, you like you said, you shouldn't have gone. Then you shouldn't have gone. If your piece of paper doesn't do anything for you, why did you go? Come on, man.
She's a libertarian, correct?
Supposedly,
I don't know about
she's
that.
tempted by the argument. Come on, dog.
And they're looking for jobs, and in their absence, as they're waiting for our workforce to match their skill sets,
Their
well,
skill
who can we
sets.
bring
They
in?
don't have skills. They have
right.
knowledge about stuff. I know apparently not about the actual jobs that they want to get because they can't get those jobs.
Yeah, they're not. They're just waiting around. Bye, baby. Have a
We
good
love you.
workout.
the local children who can clean the meatpacking factory from 5 to 11 p.m. after school.
Yes, who can we abuse and exploit within the system is basically what's going on. So
She's so. Her righteous indignation is so thick.
No.
She is so much better than you. If you do not agree with her point of view on this, you are just an evil, disgusting piece of human garbage.
If you think people should be able to trade their time for more money, you're an asshole.
Yep. And it's exploitive, is what it is.
Yes. And it's the company's faults, right? It doesn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with any of the way that the government has devalued our currency, inflated the prices of things.
Your personal choice to do a thing.
Nope, nothing at all. Those things are irrelevant. This is
Right.
all about the fact that corporations are trying to fuck everybody all of the time. That's all that this has to do with.
Yeah. That's all this is. That's all this is.
And we are far from corporatist shills, you know? I mean, far from it. But
Yes.
come on.
Come on.
This is not a genuine argument. This is nonsense.
Nope. All right, let's finish it out.
a horrifying revelation, but it's important to know that these sorts of things are happening in America every single day. Hey guys, ready or
Wait.
not, 2024 is fully upon us now.
Actually, it's 2023, Crystal.
It's fully upon us. It's
fully upon us.
So I send you two articles. One of them is the Huffington Post article that has
What
the
is
numbers.
The real story of January
Whoa.
6th? Many people have asked that question.
What is happening
Some
here?
people
Somebody's
have
talking.
described it
Someone
back
is
then.
YouTubing us.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's the next one. Word.
Yeah.
So I send you the Huffington Post article is the one that has the numbers of the kids. Excuse me.
Man, I changed out the pillow on my seat and I keep sliding.
And it's like maybe a quarter of the way down. Excuse me, right underneath
At least
these.
102 kids.
Yeah, right underneath these children should never have been employed in meatpacking plants. So right underneath that, the second paragraph, Lazari said the child laborers included 4 13-year-olds, 6 14-year-olds, 17 15-year-olds, 35 16-year-olds, 40 17-year-olds. There was 4 13-year-olds, right? What we talked about was 15. So the people that were under 15 years old was 10. There were 10 children under an age that even now is a reasonable working age that with a permit you can work there.
Yeah. That's
10.
10. It's a systemic failure is what it is. Donovan.
Yes.
All right. This is basically just widespread child labor that's going on here. This is slavery.
10.
And again, did anybody talk to these kids or their parents when they wrote this article?
No, but I've seen
doubt
the
it.
same picture of the child in the
In the
PPE.
coal mine?
No, not in the coal mine.
Oh.
It's a kid that I think it's in. It's in a bunch of these other articles. Oh, if you go down more, that's it. I've seen that picture about 90 million times now. And I saw it and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. It's just a funny looking picture. But
I mean, it looks like he's got all of his PPE on. He's got he's got a rubber suit essentially head to toe with giant rubber gloves on and a safety helmet and goggles. I mean, it seems like he's a pretty, he's donned his proper PPE to do the work that he is doing.
it's a funny looking picture.
It's a very funny looking picture.
Yes.
And also, how do you know that's not just like a small person?
Also, I think,
It could just be a really short adult.
yeah, we are not arguing. I'm going to speak for you. We're not arguing that a 13-year-old should have to be working, right? I'm not like, oh, isn't it so funny this 13-year-old is working? Objectively, that's a funny picture.
It is.
That's where I'm at. That's a funny picture.
It is.
Children shouldn't have to work. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to if that's what works best. And they shouldn't be forced to work. Again, like I said earlier, children obviously need to be safe. They need to be taken care of. All of this. This is all, of course. But I think that the idea that children can't work and need to be completely coddled and held away from any type of labor at all is not good. I think that's antiquated. I think we're past that now, and we've seen that it's swung too far, that as Kevin was saying earlier, the kids are fucking soft.
Kids are soft.
The children are soft.
Hard, yeah.
It's not good.
The
right?
softest of the soft.
Yes, and that's how you end up with someone that I respect, generally, Jashinsky, right? Who's saying people they deserve more money because they went to college. That's not how it works. You don't deserve more money because of a particular life path that you chose.
No.
That's not how it works.
Nope.
You may have earned more money. You don't deserve more money because you went to college. It doesn't work that way.
No. If you went to college, if college worked this way, right? If you went to college, any college, and that by the time you walked out with a piece of paper, that piece of paper honestly said that you have gained X amount of skills that you did not have beforehand.
Right.
And you'll be able to demonstrate those skills in the workforce, which is what a degree used to mean. It meant that I went through and I learned how to do all these different things, and I've demonstrated that over a multiple period of years to demonstrate that I have gained these skills. And this piece of paper proves that I have those skills. It gives you a slight bump in the market afterwards.
Right.
And then you are fulfilling those. You go out to the workplace and you're able to actually prove that those skills do actually work. You did come out of the system with those skills, and you are a better investment for putting in that time and that money and that effort. And then the business profits from that. If that system actually worked, then college degrees would actually mean something. But they obviously don't mean that you have any of those skills.
Right.
And it is essentially just a worthless piece of paper, and it's still just a shot in the dark whether or not that company, once they hire you, you're going to be able to perform to the level of a college graduate from, say, 60 years ago, who might have actually gained a bunch of those skills. But that's not the way the system works, and so that piece of paper is literally just a worthless piece of paper until you can go prove yourself. And if you go prove yourself from the time you're fucking 15 for multiple years before you go to college, you've got that. You've demonstrated already that you have these skills, and then I improved upon them at college, and now I am even better off. Multiple ways you can go about this, but the piece of paper alone doesn't mean shit anymore.
Right.
It doesn't. You're not entitled to anything. You don't deserve any extra money because you haven't been able to demonstrate that, and unfortunately, because of the way the school system the college system and university system has changed over the decades, you having a degree doesn't prove that you know anything more than the 15-year-old that's been working. That's just not the way the system works.
Precisely.
So you don't deserve any of that.
Kevin says, colleges are just indoctrination centers. The powers that be realized that 12 years of school wasn't enough to indoctrinate people, so they pushed for 4 more years of schooling to indoctrinate. Word.
Check.
Donovan, you're right. Shout out. Teaching kids to
Don't
work.
tell him that.
Teaching kids to work hard from a young age helps prepare them for the future like nothing else does. It creates work ethic, but it has to be done at a young age. That's not to say the kids should have to work, but if they want to work, then let them. Absolutely.
That's right.
My brother went to college and got his bachelor's degree in business. I didn't go to college. Now I'm a business owner, and he works for someone else. College is useless. We've
that
talked
so
many
much.
times in our particular department. There's a bunch of people that went to college. They have associates, bachelor's degrees, and we all work at the exact same position now doing the exact same work.
That's right.
So
It's a very interesting thing.
there are times in which it is valuable. You need more education to do certain shit, and there are other times in which experience doing other things is better for you.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer in that. If you're not going to do one of those careers, I don't know, engineering, doctoring, things like that, that's like the education is kind of required for you to be doing this type of thing, so you know what you're getting into. But
which, as a former employer and a business owner, I could tell you right now that even those like technically angled degrees like that, like an engineering degree and stuff like that, those to this day, they don't give you the skill set required to go out and do that professional job once you graduate either.
Right.
It still requires on-the-job training for multiple years for you to actually be worth something about that degree. You have the tiniest background of understanding and education in something that's going to set you up for another couple years of in the job training. But even those professional degree programs that like you do need to learn higher level math and statistics and things like that to become like a proper mechanical engineer or something like that.
Right.
You do need to learn those things, but the job of a mechanical engineer, you're not ready to do that job once you walk out with those base level knowledge. Just an inkling of what you do need. So it's still pretty worthless in the end.
yeah,
Because you could still, if you wanted to learn those things, you could do that on the internet. You could
YouTube,
still learn
yeah,
that 100%. Like through you could order books and read it that way. You could just, YouTube University is a huge tool. So it just, none of this shit tracks. Jasinski's way off base here.
Yeah.
Way off base especially for a libertarian quote unquote libertarian at this point. It's not good. Not good. What's in this Time magazine article?
The Time magazine article at the bottom is the woman. It is the last, 3 or 4 paragraphs. Yeah, the last 4 paragraphs, because I start to agree with this woman, and then she starts to get wild, right? So, further still, when families go through tough economic times, young people are more likely to join the labor force, says Deborah Levinson, a professor at the University of Minnesota's Hubert H. Humphrey School of Public Affairs, whose research focuses on child labor. The PSSI violations, that is the cleaning contractor, then may also be a sign that families are struggling much more than the national economic data shows. And I was like, okay, word, shout out. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Shit is tough right now. The unemployment rate may be low now, but the DOL's investigation took place over 3 years, and they were years in which millions of people lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kids don't do terrible work for no reason at all. Shout out, right? That's, of course, if they're doing it, there's some type of reason, because 13-year-olds aren't just like, I would love to clean a head splitter. That sounds sick. That's not what they're doing. They're doing it because they need a job, and they're probably pays decent to clean a head splitter between 5 and 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
That's probably why they're doing that job, not because they really want to clean that equipment.
Yeah.
There's another thing that changed in the period that this investigation covers: immigration enforcement. Many families in the meatpacking industry have mixed documentation status. The Trump administration had pledged in 2017 to increase worksite inspections by Immigration and Customs Enforcement fourfold. It's possible, Levinson says, that ICE activity increased on meatpacking plants in the year since. Undocumented parents dropped out of the labor force and their documented children stepped up to earn a living for their family.
It's also possible that didn't happen.
That's like a very specific circumstance. That's very specific in which that's happening, that the parents are like, I can't work here anymore because I might go to jail. You can have this job now, even though you're in school, right? Even though those parents came to America to give their child a better life, right?
Yes.
So why would they then subject their child to worse circumstances to just stay at home and not work,
Yeah.
right? They would get a different job, probably. That's
that
most
would make
likely
sense.
they would get a different job where they're less likely to get raided by ICE if that's
Yeah.
what their concern is.
They're not just going to not work and then make their kids work.
You got it, kid.
Good luck.
That seems weird. That seems like an odd choice.
Yeah. And what is this? This whole, like, it seems to span the entirety of this story, really, between both articles and, like, Crystal's review of it. There's so many, like, well, it's possible this is happening. And it's also possible this is happening. Well, when you are saying that it's also possible that this is happening, that it's possible these things are going on, well, that makes you no different than a conspiracy theorist at all, because it's also possible it's not fucking happening.
Right.
And that the context behind this situation might actually make sense. It's possible that none of this is happening.
We shouldn't be framing policy on what's possible.
No, if it's possible that this is happening, it's equally possible that it's not happening.
Right.
So why is it that you could state affirmatively that something's possibly happening?
Yeah.
You should, and it's also possible that this isn't happening. It's equally possible. It's all fucking nonsense to get you riled up to support one side of this narrative or another. Obviously.
And then the last paragraph, it's very likely that those families, the ones she just talked about, where the parents stopped working and the children started to work, it's very likely that those families are struggling even more now that the children lost their jobs, she says. DOL has very little follow-up, Levinson says, to check on the economic stability of families whose children are found to be working in violation of labor laws. So not only should we take your job, we should call to make sure that your parents have jobs.
Yeah. No,
That's just a weird take. That's a super weird take. Like, the government needs to be reaching out to the people whose jobs they just took away from them because of the arbitrary standards that they set to make sure that their parents have jobs so they don't have to have jobs.
you're making so many assumptions in
it's
these
just,
articles.
it's just a weird argument.
Like, you're going to go with the base fact that the fact that these kids have a job is the bad part of this. And that everything else has to be based off the fact that that is a bad deal.
Yeah.
And there's a million different possible reasons why this is happening or the fallout of this. And so we'll just pontificate on the possibilities. It might be this, it might be that. Might be none of this shit, man. You're obviously just trying to write this thing in a way to get people upset that these kids that are under 18 have a job in a arguably shitty industry. A non-skilled labor position. You're really upset that this is happening. Maybe these kids were really jazzed to have this job. It's possible. I'll put it in there like it's possible.
It's possible.
that all these kids were super jazzed to have these jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the job sucked and they probably weren't super in love with it, but they probably were really jazzed about their fucking paychecks. You know, what they were going to do with those paychecks. It's possible they were really thrilled about that. And it's possible the parents and the families were really proud of their kids for putting in some work ethic and really showing that, like, I'm trying to do something with my life and make something, you know, and do something powerful by becoming an asset to this nation and to our society. It's possible that all that is happening. So we'll put it in their words. It's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's inherently wrong for the children to be working. Yeah.
God, no.
One of the articles that I read, and this is kind of my last point on this, was that this is happening because there's a huge labor shortage. I think the labor shortage argument is nonsense.
Yes.
This is not about a labor shortage, right? This is about, in my opinion, that our government has inflated the currency. We talked about this earlier. Inflated the currency and flooded the market with enough free money and useless degrees that people don't even understand what work and money, how that connects anymore. That it's just this should be happening. People would deserve more money for this. I mean, we talked about like in McDonald's jobs and stuff like that, right? There's nothing wrong with these jobs. You are not meant to sustain your entire life for your whole life on this job.
Nope.
You are meant to be incentivized to get better jobs, to get better stuff. That's the whole point, right?
Yes.
But when everything, even the things you have now, continue to cost you more money, it becomes difficult to see that pathway forward. When there's some form of stability in what you are paying for things, it is easier to see the path. That thing that I want is going to stay $250, and I can't get that now, but if I get a better job, I can put that aside and we'll be good to go. But if you do that and the next time you look at it, it costs $500,
Oh, yeah.
you just wasted the $2 an hour that you got by getting a better job.
Yep.
There is no longer an incentive for you to try harder because it continues to fucking suck the whole time.
And even with your increase in pay, as pay rises, you're still only going to have $350 saved by the time that thing is $500.
Precisely.
Can't keep up.
Precisely.
That's a really good point. That's a very, very good point. I like that. So at the end of the day, I support child labor.
Salt of the Streets is pro-child labor.
Yes, we are.
Not forced child labor, but chosen child labor.
A voluntary exchange of goods and services or labor that you willingly decide to sign into. I am super down with that. I don't give a shit how old you are. Hey everybody, Colin here from Salt of the Streets. Thank you for watching today's edition of Salty Shorts. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to check out the full episode right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this with all your friends. And you too can become a spreader of the message of liberty. Thanks.